Aaron says, I'm a bit fuzzy on lead gen. How do you set up a GMB account for a city if you don't already have a client? Same goes for rank and rent. How can I use the GMB setup so I can power the local GMB rankings if I do not have a location? Well, that's the key, Aaron, is, well, so there's a couple ways, Aaron. First of all, you could just do organic lead gen, right? Or you could do paid traffic lead gen. So in other words, you can just rank organically where you don't need an actual physical location. You don't need a GMB if you just want to rank pages in the organic section of search results, right? So that's number one. You can also do Google Ads, and you don't need a location to run Google Ads for lead gen. Although that's hard to do, at least in the tree service industry. It's very hard to do with Google search ads and get and make any money. I know, because I've done it over the years many times. And it's difficult to make money on leads when you're buying search traffic from Google Ads. From YouTube leads, it's possible. It takes some dialing in to get a YouTube ads campaign set up for lead gen to where it's producing leads cheap enough to where you can make money from them. I have done it. It took a couple $1,000s of testing to get it right. So that's something that can be done. It can also be done with display ads, although I use kind of display ads more for powering up stuff that I do for SEO. So in other words, buying traffic from Google to power, like what I was talking about with the question about Forbes and Huffington Post links. If you're SEOing pages and you don't have any traffic, any activity, right? Activity, relevance, trust, and authority. But if you don't have any activity, how much of the SEO work that you're doing is actually benefiting the page if you're not getting any activity? Google starts to kind of just ignore it, right? So you can buy traffic from Google Ads to help power up what you're doing in SEO. So all that said, if you can set up organic ranking, assets for organic ranking that don't require GMB. You can also run Google Ads. You could also run like Facebook ads and stuff. I don't do any of that shit, so I can't give you any guidance on that. But GMB is certainly still probably the easiest way to start generating leads in a local area. And from at least in the industries that I've worked in, I have found that about 80% of the leads that I've ever generated over all these years have come from GMB assets. Only about 5% from Google Ads, seriously, and about 15% from organic traffic. So that's a fairly good reason to try to get GMBs. There is some ways to do it. The one way that I will discuss publicly, that I've discussed many times, is you can use PO boxes. There are some other ways to still get GMBs, which I will not disclose here. In fact, I don't even talk about that shit anywhere, even in our mastermind, just because it's getting so much harder to get those GMBs. But you can do it from PO boxes using the street address option. And I'll walk through this very briefly. Just take a minute. Go to USPS.com, United States Postal Service.com. Go to rent or renew a PO box. You can put in your zip code. I'll just put in mine, for example. Put in the zip code of where you want the lead gen asset, the GMB. And what you want to do is you want to find a post office that has this available, premium PO box services available. When you see that, then you can use what's called the street address option. So in other words, you can rent the PO box online, and throughout the checkout process, which is very inexpensive. So for example, if I click on this and I click on the smallest mailbox, now Culpeper is a rural area, so it's much less expensive. It's much cheaper to rent a PO box from a rural area than it is from a metropolitan or a high densely populated area. But what I do is I rent them for 3 months, just like that. It will automatically enroll you in auto rebill. So just near the end of 3 months, just set a calendar reminder to cancel the PO box before it rebills you. But what I do is I rent them for 3 months, and then throughout the checkout process, as long as it says premium PO box services available, there will be a checkbox that says, you want to use premium PO box services. You check that box and it will give you an additional form. It's a PDF it's pre-filled out with the information that you fill out through the checkout process. You just print it out, and it's a 2-page form. And it gives you a couple of options. Number one, to use the street address instead of the PO box. So in other words, if it's, in this case, 205 South Main Street, Culpeper 22701 is the address of the post office. So instead of me putting like PO Box 101, Culpeper VA 22701, I could do 205 S Main Street, number sign 101, Culpeper VA 22701. So I can now address my GMB, as 205 South Main Street plus the number of the box number, essentially, right? And that'll work. And then it doesn't cost anything else. You just have to you just check the box, print out the form, and then you take it to the post office with 2 forms of ID. I always use my driver's license, my vehicle registration card. And then you go in and sign the paperwork, show your 2 forms of ID. They give you the keys and assign you the box number at that point. And then you can use the street address option. That still works. I just did it like 3 weeks ago again. So it still works. And that's one of the best ways to do it. Okay. Hopefully that makes sense. Thank you, Adam, for posting the link to Lead Simplify. So yeah, local GMBs, that's the way to do it. You know, obviously the drawback there is you have to physically drive to the PO box to secure it, and then go set up your GMB, and then you got to wait a week for the postcard to be sent, and then go back to the post office to get the card. And if it's not there and you just drove out there for nothing, trust me, I've done that many times where I've driven out to the post office expecting it to be there and it wasn't there, and I had to go back and you know, request it again. So it's a bit of a pain in the ass. You know, there's one other way that you can do it that I can talk about, which would be and I've done this before. I haven't done this in several years now, probably 5 years now, but I'm sure it can still be done, would be to go post an ad on Craigslist in the area that you want to have a GMB, and say like, I'll pay $50 or I'll pay $100 for somebody to receive a postcard, and, you know, text me the verification card in the postcard. I've done that a few times. I've paid as little as $50, but as much as $100 to do that. And what happens is typically you'll get renters, people that are renting a house or even an apartment. It doesn't matter what type of dwelling they're renting, but usually it's renters, because homeowners certainly aren't going to want to have a business registered to their address that doesn't really exist there. But usually renters don't give a shit, and they'll take $100, you know, in a heartbeat just to receive a postcard and send you an email or a text with the verification number. So I know that has worked in the past. So you might want to check that out as well. Okay.